Emergency transmission from the void, the silence of deep space shattered as monitor station. Alpha 7 received the most terrifying transmission in Galactic Trade Federation history. Communications operator Zeth9, a six-armed Catharian with crystalline eyes, watched his display screens flood with emergency signals that made his breathing sacs flutter with panic. Static filled the main communication channel before a voice broke through, trembling with absolute terror. The speaker was colonist Prime Lyra Moonwhisper, a Zalari administrator whose normally melodious voice now cracked with desperation. This is New Eden Colony. Day 7 of the attack. The thing. It's not just destroying us, it's eating everything. The entire northern continent is gone. Just ... gone. Consumed down to the bedrock. Zephnein's multiple hands danced across his control panels, trying to boost the signal strength. The transmission was coming from the outer rim, nearly 4 weeks away by the fastest Federation ships. He had never heard such raw fear in any being's voice before. Station Commander the Siska arrived within moments, her tall, elegant Vorthan form moving with characteristic grace despite the urgency. Her silver skin rippled with bioluminescent patterns that indicated extreme concern. She was one of the few Federation officials who remembered the last great crisis, 50 years ago when the machine swarms had threatened the core worlds. "Survivor count?" she asked, her voice maintaining its usual calm despite the fear in her large, black eyes. "Colony records show 2.3 million inhabitants across 12 settlements," Zeth9 replied, his voice barely steady. "Current estimates suggest significant losses." The transmission crackled back to life, weaker than before. A different voice came through, younger and more panicked. "The evacuation ships, they're not coming back. 3 Federation rescue fleets have gone dark. The last one sent a single message before they vanished. It learns, it adapts, it consumes everything." The Siska felt her heart sink. 3 full Federation fleets represented nearly 500 ships and over 100,000 trained military personnel. If they had been eliminated, whatever was attacking New Eden Colony was beyond anything the Federation had faced in living memory. "Show me the tactical display," she ordered. The holographic projector activated, revealing a 3-dimensional map of the sector. New Eden Colony appeared as a small blue dot surrounded by red warning indicators. The neighboring systems showed evacuation status updates, with millions of beings fleeing toward the core worlds. "What do we know about the threat?" the Siska asked her tactical officer, a stoic Growthan named Vexprim. Vexprim's 4 eyes focused on different data streams simultaneously as he compiled the report. Initial reports describe a biomechanical entity of unprecedented size. Witnesses estimate it to be roughly the size of a small moon. It appears to consume organic and inorganic matter equally, growing larger with each world it devours. The main screen flickered to life, showing grainy footage from a long-range reconnaissance probe. The image was almost impossible to comprehend. A massive, writhing mass of flesh and metal moved through space like a living asteroid. Tentacles the size of battleships extended from its surface, reaching toward planets with hungry intent. "The entity demonstrates adaptive capabilities," Vexprim continued. "Each Federation fleet that engaged it was defeated using different tactics. It learns from every encounter and modifies its approach accordingly." Thiska studied the horrifying image with growing dread. This was not a conventional enemy that could be defeated through standard military doctrine. It was something entirely beyond Federation experience. "Options?" she asked quietly. "The 4th Defense Fleet is our closest response unit, but they are 18 days away at maximum velocity. The second combined fleet could reach the sector in 15 days, but they are currently engaged in border disputes with the hegemony. 15 days is too long, Siska said. By then, the entity could have consumed 3 more systems. Her tactical officer hesitated before speaking again. There is one other possibility, Commander. The bridge fell silent. Every officer present knew what he was about to suggest, and none of them wanted to be the first to acknowledge it. Protocol 77 Alpha, Vex Prime said quietly. The emergency defense clause. The words hung in the air like a dangerous gas. Protocol 77 Alpha was the Federation's ultimate contingency plan, created 50 years ago after the machine swarm crisis. It had never been used, and most officials hoped it never would be. You're suggesting we contact the Deathworlders? Siska said, her voice barely above a whisper. Humans were members of the Galactic Trade Federation, but they remained largely isolated from the galactic community. They came from a world called Earth, a planet so violent and dangerous that it had forged them into something unprecedented in known space. They were warriors by nature, aggressive and unpredictable, with a military philosophy that other species found deeply disturbing. The human defense fleet is stationed only 6 days from New Eden Colony, Vex Prim continued. Their response time would be faster than any Federation force. The Siska had met humans during diplomatic functions. They seemed pleasant enough in formal settings, but their reputation preceded them. Stories of human military actions were whispered in Federation council chambers. They fought wars with an intensity that frightened even veteran military commanders. They used tactics that seemed insane to other species, achieving victories that should have been impossible. A new transmission cut through her thoughts. The signal was so weak they almost missed it entirely. Day 8... The entity has reached the inner settlement. It's not just consuming matter anymore. It's learning our technology. I can see Federation ship designs being integrated into its structure. The rescue fleets we sent, they're part of it now. The transmission dissolved into static, then silence. Siska closed her eyes and made the decision that would change everything. Open a priority channel to Earth. Contact the Human Defense Command. Commander, are you certain? Seth9 asked. The Council will need to approve this decision. Protocol 77 Alpha requires unanimous consent. There's no time for votes, Siska replied firmly. Those people are dying while we follow procedures. I'll take full responsibility. The communications array turned toward the human homeworld as Zeph9 worked to establish a connection. It took several minutes to reach the human command structure, and when the connection was established, the face that appeared on their main screen was unlike anything most of the bridge crew had seen before. Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Human Defense Command looked tired, as if she had been working long hours. But her dark eyes were sharp and alert. Behind her, the Human Command Center bustled with activity. Humans moved with quick efficiency, their voices creating a constant background of coordination and purpose. This is Admiral Vasquez. I understand you have an emergency situation. Siska found herself studying the human's face. Vasquez appeared to be middle-aged by human standards, with graying hair pulled back in a military style and lines around. Her eyes that spoke of difficult decisions. There was something in her expression that reminded Siska of veteran officers from her own species, but with an intensity that was purely human. Admiral, we have a colony under attack by an unknown. hostile entity. Our estimates suggest it's a consumer-class threat with adaptive capabilities. The colony has 2.3 million inhabitants, and we have no forces capable of reaching them in time. Vasquez's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. Consumer-class entity. Biomechanical hybrid. Yes, based on the transmissions we've received. How did you know? We've encountered similar threats in our outer territories, Vasquez replied. How long do you estimate the colonists have? Perhaps days, maybe hours. Vasquez turned away from the screen and spoke to someone, off-camera, in the rapid, clipped language humans used during emergencies. Vasquez caught words like fleet deployment and maximum acceleration before Vasquez turned back to them. We'll handle it, Vasquez said simply. Send us all available data on the entity's location and capabilities. Admiral, I must warn you that our intelligence suggests this is a significant threat. 3 Federation fleets have been completely destroyed. For the first time, Vasquez smiled. There was something in that smile that made the Ziska understand why other species both feared and respected humans. It wasn't cruel or savage. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for this moment their entire career. Commander, significant threats are what we specialize in, Vasquez said. Consider the problem solved. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge crew staring at a blank screen. They had just called upon the most feared military force in the galaxy to save a colony of peaceful miners and traders. As this girl watched the tactical display update with new information, she wondered if they had just made a terrible mistake. But the memory of those final screams from the colony convinced her they had made the only choice possible. In the depths of space, the human war machine was already beginning to move. And for the first time in 8 days, there was hope. Thunder from Earth. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace like thunder made visible. 347 ships materialized in perfect formation at the edge of the new Eden system, their dark hulls creating geometric patterns against the starfield. Admiral Alina Vasquez stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Terra's Wrath, watching the tactical displays update as her armada spread into attack formation. The sight before them would have broken the spirits of most species. The consuming maw had grown to the size of a small planet, its biomechanical surface writhing with stolen technology from the Federation fleets it had devoured. Tentacles larger than city blocks extended from its core, reaching toward New Eden's last remaining settlements with methodical hunger. Fleet deployment complete, Admiral, reported Captain Marcus Chen from the tactical station. All ships are in position and awaiting orders. Vasquez studied the entity with professional interest. It had integrated the hulls and weapons of 3 Federation fleets into its structure, creating hybrid weapon systems that combined organic adaptability with military-grade firepower. Most commanders would have seen an impossible challenge. Vasquez saw a target. Open a channel to the entity, she ordered. Her communications officer looked confused. Admiral, our intelligence suggests it doesn't respond to standard diplomatic protocols. I'm not being diplomatic. The channel opened, broadcasting on all frequencies toward the massive creature. Vasquez's voice carried the authority of someone who had never been denied when she made a demand. Consuming entity, this is Admiral Alina Vasquez of the Human Defense Fleet. You have 60 seconds to release all consumed personnel and withdraw from this system. This is your only warning. The response came immediately. The entity's surface rippled, and thousands of fighter-sized organisms launched from its biomechanical porus. They moved with perfect coordination, their forms combining the sleek design of Federation interceptors with the adaptive biology of the creature that had spawned them. Incoming hostiles, Chen reported. Count is approximately 4,000 units and climbing. They're launching everything they have. Vasquez watched the approaching swarm with the calm expression of someone observing an interesting weather pattern. Around her, the bridge crew prepared for combat with practiced efficiency. This was what they had trained for throughout their careers. Signal the fleet. All ships, weapons free. Show them why Earth breeds warriors. The human defense fleet opened fire as one, and space around New Eden filled with concentrated destruction. Particle cannons and kinetic accelerators reached across the void with devastating accuracy, turning the entity's biomechanical offspring into expanding clouds of superheated debris. Human point defense systems created walls of death that no enemy could penetrate. The entity's opening assault, designed to overwhelm defenders through sheer numbers, lasted exactly 97 seconds. When the firing stopped, empty space surrounded. The human fleet and the system's orbital area was filled with the cooling remains of 4,000 hybrid fighters. Surface installations are launching additional units, Chen reported. It's adapting its strategy. Then we adapt faster, Vasquez replied. Begin bombardment pattern, Alpha 7. Target the appendages first. The fleet's main guns turned toward the massive entity and space filled with the controlled fury of human firepower. Kinetic rounds accelerated to significant fractions of light speed hammered into the creature's extended tentacles, while particle beams carved through its biomechanical surface with surgical precision. But the entity was learning. As the human weapons struck its surface, the damaged areas began to shift and adapt. New armor plating emerged from within its structure, specifically designed to deflect the wavelengths and impact patterns of human weapons. It's modifying its defensive systems in real time, Chen observed. Hull integrity is increasing in targeted areas. Vasquez nodded. She had expected this. Signal Battle Group 7. Execute boarding protocol, Omega. What happened next had never been attempted in galactic military history. Human assault transports launched from the fleet's carriers, heading directly toward the entity's surface. Each transport carried a full company of human marines, warriors trained for combat in the most hostile environments imaginable. The entity attempted to defend itself, launching new waves of biomechanical fighters and extending defensive tentacles toward the incoming transports. But human pilots flew with a recklessness that defied logic, weaving through the creature's defenses with maneuvers that should have been impossible. The first transport landed on the entity's surface with a thunderous impact that sent ripples across its biomechanical skin. Marines poured out of the craft in full combat armor, their weapons designed specifically for fighting in hostile alien environments. Sergeant, First Class Maria Santos led the first assault team across the entity's surface, her squad moving with coordinated precision through landscapes of flesh and metal that shifted beneath their feet. The surface was alive, actively trying to trap and consume the human intruders. Contact Front called Corporal James Rodriguez as biomechanical defenders emerged from the creature's surface. They were horrifying combinations of organic tissue and stolen Federation technology, designed to process and consume organic matter. Santos smiled grimly as she raised her plasma rifle. Light them up. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had witnessed. Human marines fought across the surface of a living creature the size of a planet, using weapons that turned biomechanical defenders into component atoms. They established beachheads on the entity's surface and began working their way toward What sensors indicated was its central nervous system. Meanwhile, on the bridge of Terra's Wrath, Vasquez coordinated the overall assault while monitoring rescue operations. Human search and rescue teams had located the surviving colonists in hardened shelters deep within the entity's structure, places where it had stored them for later consumption. Rescue Team Alpha has located Shelter Complex 7, reported Commander Lisa Park from the Rescue Coordination Center. 542 survivors, confirmed, mostly Zalari civilians. They're in poor condition, but alive. Medical teams are standing by, Vasquez replied. Continue extraction operations. The entity had never faced an enemy like humans before. Other species fought wars with careful consideration, measured responses, and complex strategies designed to minimize casualties. Humans fought wars with the understanding that sometimes the only way to save lives was through absolute violence applied with surgical precision. Santos and her Marines reached the entity's central processing core after 6 hours of continuous combat. The chamber was a nightmare of organic computing systems and stolen Federation technology, all working together to coordinate the creature's hunting and consumption patterns. Demolition charges are set, Santos reported through her comm system. Core destruction in 30 seconds. All rescue teams confirm extraction status, Vasquez ordered from her flagship. Final count, 847 survivors recovered, Commander Park reported. All civilian personnel are aboard rescue ships and clear of the target zone. Execute demolition protocol. The explosion that followed was visible across 3 star systems. The entity's central nervous system, designed to coordinate a creature the size of a small moon, disintegrated in a chain reaction that propagated throughout its entire structure. The massive biomechanical form convulsed once, then began to break apart as its controlling intelligence died. In the aftermath, as the entity's remains drifted through space as harmless debris, the surviving colonists gathered on the observation decks of human rescue ships. They stared in amazement at the fleet that had saved them, trying to understand how beings from a single world had accomplished what 3 Federation fleets could not. Dr. Kyla Starweaver, New Eden Colony's chief medical officer, stood beside Admiral Vasquez in the flagship's medical bay as they watched human medics treating wounded colonists with equipment far more advanced than anything the colony had possessed. How, she asked simply, how did you defeat something that consumed 3 entire fleets? Vasquez considered the question carefully. Other species see war as something to be avoided, minimized, conducted with rules and limitations. We see war as something that must be won completely and decisively. When we commit to a fight, we don't hold anything back. But the cost, your Marines who died in the assault, would do it again without hesitation. Vasquez finished. That's what it means to be human, Doctor. We don't just fight for ourselves. We fight for everyone who can't fight for themselves. As the human fleet prepared to depart, leaving behind a rescue station to continue aid operations, messages began arriving from across the galaxy. The Federation Council requested an immediate meeting with human leadership. Dozens of species that had previously avoided contact with Earth suddenly sent diplomatic inquiries. The galaxy had learned something important about the mysterious Deathworlders. They were not just warriors or conquerors. They were protectors willing to sacrifice everything for beings they had never met, simply because it was the right thing to do. Admiral Vasquez stood on her bridge, watching the stars shift as the fleet prepared for the journey home. She knew this mission had changed humanity's relationship with the galaxy forever, They were no longer the isolated species from the dangerous world at the edge of known space. They were the ones you called when everything else had failed, when hope was gone, and when the impossible needed to become possible. And in the depths of space, other ancient threats that had slumbered for millennia felt a new presence in the galaxy. Something had changed in the cosmic balance of power. The Deathworlders had revealed themselves, and nothing would ever be the same again. Asterisk.